Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Etheria Restart video. So in today's video, guys, we are talking about Shiata again, but we're talking about her because she's buffed, right? After the patch notes went out for the balance patch after RTA, her Soul Flame evolutions got a big boost. It used to just do attack and crit damage increase, which was already pretty strong. Like she was a solid option. The issue is as we continue releasing new characters, a little bit of power creep happens here and there. So there was a little more best in slot characters for speed runs, so you're not taking as long, but Shiata was always a safe bet. Now the thing is as you progress further and further into the game, the endgame PVE content just is rough, to say the least. Anti-sync echoes and maybe the last 10 stages of Ember Trek get a little bit like annoying where it's just like, okay, yes, RNG here, up, I got to restart, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times, one of the reasons why that content is frustrating or a little monotonous is the fact that you have to bring in a damage dealer. And most of the damage dealers, they just die. And once they die, you have to restart. There are ways around this with bringing heroes like, Sonya and stuff like that. I've talked about this in the past. It's kind of a nice way around it. But whenever you bring tank heroes, you don't really have to worry about that too much because they're built tanky. They don't die as quickly as something like, a Yelly or a Lilium. On some of the endgame stuff, most people have been using, like Rahu. Rahu's very, very good if you have him built because he turns all of your like support characters into a DPS because he has the follow up possibility. But now I think Shiata replaces him in that regard because she can AOE all the time, right? And Revelation does a lot more damage than like a Rahu follow up, which is really neat. So with the buff to her, right? They gave her increased res and increased damage taken by 15%, reduces damage taken by 15% for each soul flame. So every 3 buffs that she gets, she then gets a soul flame. So each stack of that gives all of these stats, which is huge because it means her damage reduction goes to 45%. Now, so me and like everyone else that read that at the beginning thought, wow, let's just put her on Bloodbath, right? Because she'll be super tanky with the Soul Flames and the Bloodbath ability at 12 matrices, and it's 100% the case. This is how I have her built for PvE. Like I mentioned, for Ember Trek and Anti-Sync Echoes, I think she's best in slot. You just run her with like Sonya, Ling Luo, uh, Valerian, Kachi the Guard, just like huge buffs across the board, tons of healing, and you just slowly nuke down everybody and do chips of damage with her AoE until Revelation comes back again, and then it's huge chips of damage, rinse and repeat, right? And I have a clip of me doing some anti-sync echoes like on the in-between levels, just to show you for like time's sake, but it works just as well as you would think it would. So when it comes to her skills, prior to the balance patch, I already had the skill 2 upgraded because I used her to end up beating like Aurora and Doki Doki whenever I first started out. So she had already been pre-built. Now I did end up putting in 4 lattices into her skill 3 because I do plan on using her in PvP. Although I will say after just like 1 or 2 kind of like example cases where it's just like, how well is this going to work? I do think she needs the right people around her in PvP to work. I really think she needs some good buff supporters and stuff like that because even though you're running her on Bloodbath, she is still an attack scaling hero. So you're not investing on like HP or defense very much like Holden or Rahu. So until she gets at least like maybe 2 stacks of the Soul Flames, she's still somewhat squishy. Okay. So that's going to be interesting. But for now, let's just talk about the PvEs. So the way I have her built is with Revelation, and the nice thing about shells, whenever you're building a tank hero like this, especially with like Revelation, you only need the one specialized core and then either momentum or keen eye, because the other matrix doesn't matter because you need to build up uh, 12 pieces of bloodbath, right? And none of the damage scaling shells, other than like Law of Silence and then the new Tiger Shell, offer them. But the thing is Shiata has a 4 hitter on her skill 3. You want to run her in Revelation on PvE. So I do have a Fury Edge and Momentum piece on her. Momentum's pretty nice because it does give you the 12% crit rate, which makes her a little bit easier to crit cap at 100% with that Matrix piece, along with the Fury Edge, which is also giving you another 12% crit rate. So, uh, pretty nice. I do have overclocking, and then this certainly could go up. And this is iffy because this is such a nice speed roll where I could see this being relevant for uh, for PvP somewhere. I don't want to re-roll this, but ideally it could be something like crit damage, but I'm keeping it where it's at. And this is how we have her built on the module side. So her attack is low, right? But remember, she does get additional attack percentage with her soul flames. The reason why it's low is because I have an HP percentage on her right side. As I mentioned, and it's very similar in my PvP build, is until she gets at least like 2 stacks of the soul flames for the 30% damage reduction, the bloodbath only goes so far. And I thought this was a pretty decent piece. The effect accuracy is somewhat relevant as well because she does offer defense down on her skill 3. And sometimes, whenever you're going just like full tank, you won't be able to bring like a Kloss or a Plume or somebody like that. So, if you have that additional opportunity to land defense down just from Shiata, because she's spamming her skill 3, remember, I thought that was kind of nice. So, HP attack percentage and speed. And then we did have to put crit rate here to get the 100% crit rate. But she's got HP and some speed. And then crit damage, crit rate, attack. This is a pretty good piece on momentum. Here we've got speed, flat attack, effect accuracy. We've got a good roll in HP. This is usually not a great piece for a damage dealer like this, but I do like it in this build. I also thought this would be great for Tiamat if I ever built her up. And then a nice piece here with some speed, attack percentage, and crit rate. So that's how we have her built. Now, like I said, from a PvE perspective, you're not going to be using her in like threshold dungeons. This is where Lilium and Plume just absolutely take over. For Doki Doki, it's real mocha. And then in the shell dungeons is just primarily Plume and Lilium, and you're just one-shotting people and killing people very fast. But when it comes to Ember Trek Hard, right? Like all of these dungeons that are anything that is not Sharon. Like Sharon is the only boss that you won't use her in, and maybe Dahlia. But even at the lower stages, like hard 18, you can use Shiata in here. And depending on where Sharon falls on the hard Ember Trek, you could probably use her in there too. But anything above like level 20, you probably can't use her. And in anti-sync echoes, like the recorded video I have is like on RC77 and Ditting, but I use the same concepts up to Bientin. I'll use the same thing with Marvel all the way up to Shadowrunner. The thing is, the bosses have like unique, uh, mechanics. So maybe you're just like tank and spank strategy doesn't work there. But anyway, so let me show you the clips, and I'm just gonna get across, like the major points because this is really nice. So in this clip specifically, I think I end up changing some things around. I take out the Lilium because Shiata is our main damage dealer, and then I just put in Ling Luo. So also in this case, like as I mentioned, you don't need to use Plume. You could just bring in Sonya. Uh, Also, the new healer that's coming out, or that's already out, but the banner isn't until next week. The green healer that's like a upgraded version of Sonya. You can literally run like Ling Luo, Sonya, the new healer, along with Xiada and like Kachi the guard, and you can beat like any piece of content. Um, so yeah, you get some revelation stacks. Like that amount of damage is pretty good from a just tank hero. Where if you're using the Rahu, it's just a much slower kind of process. You can still do it, but using a team like this, you know, your average time clears are going to be anywhere from like 3 to 10 minutes. Where with the Rahu, it might have been up to like 15, 20%, somewhere in that nature. But the damage that is done to her is like the counterattacks and everything up to this point on something like a Yelly or Lilium, like they'd be down to like 20% health or whatever. So she's tanky. It's a really cool kind of update. She pairs really well with Ling Luo, of course, because of the whale prayers. But here, you know, it's just like really solid damage with the revelation, even when it doesn't proc, because she is getting the attack percentage buff along with the crit damage. So yeah, just like a really cool kind of upgrade. So it's essentially the same thing. I'm trying to ramp her up to 3 soul flames as fast as I can. Doki's a pretty decent option as well, especially if you can time the speeds. Like if you have Shiata go right before the Doki, uh, you know, increasing her speed and her damage dealt and things like that on uh, Doki's data stream is really really cool. So this is essentially all I did all the way from RC77 to Viper, and you see it's like 2 minute clears. So it's pretty awesome. I did that with RC77, I did with Didding, I did with Bientin, and like something like Marvel here. This is what you can use. You don't even need to use Plume. I don't have Freya on. Oh, I do have Freya on Bulwark here. On Bientin, you couldn't get immunity, so it was a little bit more difficult to outspeed. But here, you can just use something like Valerian, like full tank. You're getting your buffs. You're getting some turn meter push from the Freya. Like if you wanted to get in front of the Marvel, push your Ling Luo up, or you could even give the Dreamweave. Like here, she's not going to use the immunity. Actually, I do need to time that. That's important, especially for this level. Some of this stuff you also have to manual. I think a lot of people know that. Okay, so there's the Marvel. And then we use the Ling Luo, and then you just put this on auto, go get a cup of coffee or something, and you be on your way. And like I said, if you wanted to use the new healer in this instance, you certainly could. You could even like take out Freya for the big turn meter boost, for the dispels, for the heals. Uh, you're also reducing skill cooldown, so Ling Luo will loop back around to her immunity a lot more. Like as soon as that new healer comes out, I think PVE is just like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna go work for 20 minutes. Okay. Oh yeah, next boss. Okay, I'll go work for like 30 minutes and come back. So yeah, this is the whole strategy. And now she's at 3 stacks. So she's got the 45% damage taken. She's got the 36 plus 18. What is that? 52? 52% attack and 30% crit damage. Also, the effect res is kind of important because if she doesn't have like immunity up or something like that against something like Marvel or Rin, there's a possibility that they don't land the taunt, they don't land the resistance down and turn meter pushback, speed down. All of those things are pretty relevant. So after this run ends, we'll jump into arena, and I'll just show you, uh, some of the teams that I ran against uh, a pretty decent player in PvP where I lost, and I was just I was really testing how tanky the bloodbath kind of strategy was, and she needs support. That's the thing. So in PvP, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if she's going to be as good as I thought, just because you really need the soul flames to kind of stack up. But uh, in PvP, I was also running count as the shell, which I'll talk about. So you get the general gist here, I'm sure, where it's a very fluid, simple, safe team. And for anti-sync echoes, where it's a one-time clear stuff, yeah, you don't need to be fast because you're not running it more than one time. See, she also landed the defense down there. So this is also very nice. Like I said, in these cases where you're not using Plume or Kloss to speed up the run, Xiata herself, if she has a little bit of effect accuracy, can help you get that done. And the other thing is as she levels up with those 3 soul flames, she's hitting 4 times. And the defense down percent chance is I think at 65%, but you're hitting 4 times, so it's very high percentage. So yeah, I really like this. I mean, it's just making this so much simpler for me. I took way too long trying to beat all these levels because I didn't want to manual it. I just don't have time. And being able to go in there and do 1 or 2 manual setups and then leave it and then go back to work has been very, very cool. Okay. Now, when it comes to Arena, I just want to show you her loadout, which I have here. So same thing, except I'm using Keen Eye here in Fury Edge instead of Momentum. And it's because I didn't have a count on Fury Edge Momentum. So yeah. So room for improvement on the attack. The speed, I still don't know if this should be crit damage or crit rate. And then the final damage dealt has some room for improvement as well. But all of these pieces are the same as the one you just saw in PvE, other than this one, where I have the crit rate here with some speed, crit damage, and the effect res. So let me show you the 2 matches that I lost, right? So I was going up against a really good Fusho with the Tiamat and the Sonya. And I just brought in another tank team. And here, I wanted to see how well she did without a whole lot of buff support. So I got the one stack of Soul Flame off, but you'll see how much damage this Tiamat ends up doing. And the other thing I noticed is the count healing, because everyone's really going to be on Bloodbath. I don't know if count is even the way. I'm not quite sure what to run her on. I think Jackal Guard's pretty interesting because it does self buff, but that Tiamat, it it's doing decent damage with only 1 stack, right? And that's just interesting. So that's where I was getting I want 2 stacks on the Shiata as fast as I can. So here I ran the Freya to get, just a little bit more tankiness with the defense up and see if we could do something here. But she's not really uh, that damage from the Mizuki Mikado did nothing. But you saw there as well, the healing from the count again just isn't really doing anything. So I think Law of Silence would be pretty good because you can't target her. I think Rahu trying to focus her down at the very beginning of the match could be a thing. So here we have 2 stacks of the Soul Flames. And she's got the defense up currently, but I think it goes away right before the Tiamat attacks her. So here's the Tiamat hit, even with 2 stacks. That was about, I don't know, maybe 30% damage. The Mizuki is a pretty good counter to her because you are going to have to run her in. Um, I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, so like I don't know. It's interesting. I think a team like this, like she's okay. She's not bad. But still like Tiamat's can burst her down. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this, right? She's not 5 of 5, so her reduced damage taken isn't there. I don't know how jacked up this Tiamat was. Like I don't know if it's 5 of 5 or anything like that. But overall, for the PvP scene, uh I I don't think I have the gear or the knowledge to make her OP, but some of these people at the top of the food chain, they know what they're doing way better than me. But I did just want to give you a brief review of the buff from Xiata since I did put a little bit more lattices into her. I think she's amazing in PvE endgame for the extremely difficult content, which is cool. And then from the PvP side, I do think she's viable. I don't know if she's like the ideal pick for tank versus tank. She might just be like a good counter pick against like some cleave options to kind of do some nice damage with sustain here and there. I'll have to suss that out, right? But that's where I'm at so far, guys. Appreciate you watching. Catch you on the next one. See ya.